There are two questions that people never forgets to ask any astrologer. Many astrologers might predict your death by approximately precision. And this is not some superstitious, unbelievable tale. Since death is not something that happens suddenly. It starts to build up over time. Or we can portray it as we start moving toward death the next second after we are born. Only, we are not conscious about it. Our mind is not generally alert enough to grasp it. But our body tries to speak it to us in many ways. It's just us who turns deaf ears to it. There are some surprising stories behind this fact. There are studies done by examining the blood of people who were murdered or suffered violent deaths. And their blood was taken before their deaths. No one knew that they were going to die. But coincidentally, they got their tests done before death. Also, their reports spoke completely different language, showing abnormal results. So, as the end approaches, the entire body starts speaking the language of death. So, is it possible to predict death? Usually, our death is set in relation to the solar cycles. One solar cycle is approximately 12 years long. So, predictions can tell us on which phase or segment of a particular solar cycle our death will approach. But the date and time need not be exact. Since, in today's era, when medical science has achieved such advancements, it is obvious to succeed in pumping few more breaths in us artificially. In India, there are many historical characters who choose their own time of death. And one among them was the Mahabharata character, Bhishma Pitama. He was shot by multiple arrows by his grandson Arjun during the war of Kurukshetra. Yet, death couldn't touch him, as his segment of leaving was not right. He decided to leave on Uttarayan, since that was his perfect solar segment. Not only Bhishma, there are many other yogis and kings in ancient India who knew their own solar segment of death. Predictions of death is based on the science of probability. Like, we can look at the skies and predict with some percent of accuracy whether it is going to rain or not. Similarly, an aware being can read our energy and the amount of estimated karma left for this particular lifetime and predict our death. However, there are ways of cheating these predictions. If you take a yogi or anyone on the spiritual path to an astrologer, they will refuse to foresee their future. This is because those who are on sadhana, their energies becomes unpredictable. They can die much sooner or sometimes much later than their stated time. These sadhana changes the trajectory of life and starts tampering with these calculations of predictions. Next comes the question, predicted or unpredicted, can we perceive death as it approaches towards us? Death has a certain smell in itself. Those who are around animals might notice that they can sense death since they can smell it. This is specifically true with dogs and other carnivorous animals, as they have a very strong sense of smell for survival. This is possible for some human beings too. The brahmacharis, due to their different eating habits, can develop a keen sense of smell for these type of things. This logic of death smell is now starting to get noticed by science. Biologists have found that humans have certain death smell, which can be used to train dogs to find human corpses. They also found that there are 8 chemical compounds whose combinations forms the smell of death. Surprisingly, these compounds in us matches with pigs. After death, even the subtle body or the soul has a particular smell. But it is beyond our reach, though dogs can sense it well. So, wherever paranormal activities occurs, we can always see dogs barking near it. But the smell is not the only indicator of death. Since death means transition from the state of dynamism to the state of inertia. So, there are some signs of change that we can feel inside us before death. Like, if the transition of death has begun, the person might not be able to look at the tip of his nose. And, for those who practices meditation daily, they may notice that their eyeballs can no longer stick to the middle of the eyebrows. Next, if we observe our breath, we will notice that, if death is near, the breath will not reach the lower lobe of lungs. These are some signs of shutting down of organs, one by one. So, foreseeing death few months earlier is very much a possibility. Please subscribe the channel if you like the video and support us in making further videos like this.